To work with, say, Google Pay, which requires either Android Wear Watch or the software to be more open sourced. So at the moment, the NFC, if you're using it for payment, is only compatible with Alipay, which is widely used in China. Regardless, before we take a closer look at the software, as well as talk about the performance after using it for a few days, taking a closer look at the design, again, on the back here, we do have an array of sensors for optical heart rate measurement, in addition to things like sleep tracking, as well as SpO2, blood oxygen monitoring is also built on in, as well as the charging contacts. The charging system is exactly the same as the one used on all the current generation Amazfit wearables. These magnetic pins can snap pretty easily onto the back and quickly top it up in around an hour. And speaking of battery life, the GTS2 is rated to last roughly 7 days. However, that is only if you are doing a few things, include turning off Wi-Fi, as well as limiting the always-on mode. And in regular usage, where you're also activating all the sensors, including GPS, as well as raising the screen brightness, I personally found the battery to be a little bit closer to around 3 days before I needed to recharge it again, which is still better than many Android Wear smartwatches as well as the Apple Watch. However, it is something to keep in mind. Or if you hop into the eco mode and really reduce the amount of tracking that's going on, it will be able to get you through even more than 7 days. And then the crown key here is also slightly dipped in to make it harder to accidentally press if you hit it against something, but still very tactile and responsive. You use this key essentially to act as a navigation to bring up the list of applications on the watch, as well as double tapping to instantly bring you into the list of all the activities that you can start tracking on the watch. The screen itself is quite bright, easy to read, as well as sensitive to touch, coated and protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 3 for some added resistance. In terms of the interface here, again, very simple style. We're able to long hold to change the different watch faces. And by the way, the GTS2 has over 3 gigs of built-in internal storage, which is much more than the 64 megabytes on the BIP series. That means you're able to store more watch faces on the memory as well. Essentially, any watch face that you like from the application, which there are over 50 ones which are included in their app, you can push over and save onto the watch without worrying about the memory getting full, which is pretty neat. In addition, that 3 gigs of memory can also be used to download and share music into this memory itself. So you can use it like a dedicated MP3 player, and then you're able to connect this to wireless headphones when you're running and use it to play back music without bringing along your phone. It also allows you to have some customization, like other smartwatches on Amazfit's new generation of their OS. You can customize all the elements of a watch face, including what you display on each module here, whether that's going to show you notifications, sleep patterns, pedometer, weather, so on and so forth. As expected, the fluidity of the watch is really smooth. It is using one of their fastest processors available, and so everything in terms of flicking and animations, as we can see here, is just very fast, happening buttery smooth as far as the refresh rate of the display is concerned. And just as a quick contrast, the BIP U is also pretty quick, I would say, overall, but the frame rates are definitely a little slower. As you're scrolling, you can see slightly more jumpiness sometimes, versus, again, the same list on here just feels buttery as you're gliding along. GTS2 actually came out slightly earlier this year compared to the BIP U, which just came out about a month ago. And so that one has a slightly more updated software, which hopefully Amazfit will also push over to the GTS2 soon using a software update. But at the moment, there are still a few elements which are different in terms of the visual style between the two. For example, you're able to see your activity for the day in terms of your heart rate as well as your score. However, you can't really see additional data on the watch itself for the past 7 days, for example. However, overall, it's still pretty easy to understand and use. You can start a manual heart rate test. You can also take a look at your weather information for the past week, all working quite well. And then coming over here to the music control is where you can play back some music. So just pausing things there, overall takeaway is the speaker quality is better than expected, I'd say, for something so small on your wrist. It actually gets louder than I was thinking. Also using as a speakerphone when you're answering phone calls, as well as for alerts and notifications, it's more than loud enough to get your attention. It doesn't really distort, which is a surprise, although it doesn't have too much bass either, as expected for something so tiny, however. We have the ability to go into a shortcut list of different types of activities that you can see at a glance, all in one screen, which is, by the way, something that you don't have on the Amazfit Bip U, as well as coming back here now onto this main page. Watch does also have a auto detection for the brightness. There is a proximity light sensor, so if you're pointing at something brighter, it will turn up the brightness of the screen, and alternatively, if you are in a darker environment, you can see that the brightness here will automatically drop to conserve on battery. There's also some auto detection modes on here, including automatic workout detection. If it's knowing that you're starting to run, for example, it will start to track it as a session for you automatically, as well as the ability for you to customize what the crown key does in terms of tapping once or tapping twice. If you don't want to bring it to a certain application, you can change it to do something else that you may use more frequently. Now finally, coming over to the voice control, basically by flicking your wrist, and afterwards you'll be able to launch into the voice assistant, even an offline assistant which isn't smart but can still do certain things like lower or raise the volume. And when the voice assistant is activated, you'll see a small icon pop up down below, volume up. And you can see it's registered our voice, and right now it raised the volume 1 bar higher. As far as these sports are concerned, there's quite a few modes that you can track on here, including outdoor running, walking, cycling, treadmill, swimming, since again it's waterproof, climbing, free training, and additional sports as well that you can further find under more obscure categories can all be found here. In total, there's actually over 90 different sports. It will turn the heart rate monitoring on continuously, so it will keep on measuring your heart rate fluctuations second to second, as well as take a look at how many steps you've walked, converted to your speed as you're performing a sport. Finally, a new feature that is in beta mode at the moment is also the ability for it to measure your breathing quality. In other words, your SpO2 measurement can also be taken sporadically, even at night. It will give you a sleeping breathing score at night, which you can view back in the companion app. I'll show you guys that later on in this video. Pretty good results as far as the overall accuracy is concerned, so I didn't have too many issues in this regard. The pedometer I did find to have a slightly lower number of steps, which are sometimes counted, compared to when I was putting it side by side with the Amazfit Bip U, which was interesting. This one here would sometimes count, I would say, 5% less steps. Overall, I would rather for it to be on the conservative side and say you've walked maybe 1 or 2 steps less than overcounting steps. Otherwise, the heart rate measurement was very sensitive and accurate compared to other wearables. At least it was pretty much right on par with what I got from some Huawei Honor smartwatches, as well as Amazfit's own watches and bands I've tried in the past. It was pretty much giving me the exact same measurement. Sleep tracking was also pretty good in terms of giving me the amount of time I've napped, even during the day, which is a great improvement actually compared to past wearables which omitted this precision. It can only track your sleep at night, for example, versus this one, which can even count naps that you take during the day. However, one thing I will say is that data is only available when you sync it over to your companion app. So speaking of the companion app, let's take a closer look at it. It's called Zepp, again showing you your heart rate pattern throughout the day, as well as the aforementioned sleeping score in terms of REM, as well as other stages of sleep, light sleep, when you're awake, when you're in deep sleep, and giving you an evaluative score out of 100 for your quality and how to improve in terms of different elements of your sleep, as well as to fall asleep earlier, waking up earlier as well. It will tell you those things, and you can also tag your mood to the day that you can then easily search back when you are looking through your history. And here is the aforementioned sleep breathing quality score, which tells you how well you're breathing at night, if you're sleeping in the correct posture or not. Now, one thing I want to mention here is under your profile settings, you're also able to add different quote-unquote accounts, and this is where they should have the ability to tie in the Amazon Alexa integration. So you're able to log into your Amazon account, for example, and what that does is then enable the smart AI assistant. However, you'll notice here, at least on my particular version of the app, Amazon is not a choice of a account that I can add at the moment. What that means is the Alexa integration is currently still in the pending stage. Some users have reported that they've already got it, but for others, it's still a software update that will be here in the coming days. It is something that they've already shown us before as well in their other wearables and also on the cheaper Amazfit Band 5, so I would imagine it works in exactly the same way. But again, it's a matter of when they push over that software update. That's just something to quickly keep in mind here at the current status at the time of this video review. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Amazfit GTS 2 smartwatch. It's definitely a more polished version of the Amazfit Bip that gives you more sensors, including the, again, compass, the barometer, the built-in microphone and speaker system, as well as a more premium construction with the metal that they have compared to plastic on the Bip. So if you want something that feels a little bit better and looks a little nicer on your wrist, then this could be worth taking a closer look at. It definitely has more tricks up its sleeve. With that being said, of course, it's not perfect. It's a software update away from being even better, I'd say, giving us the new UI that allows us to see data from the past week, our sleep data from the watch itself would all be really neat to have, in addition to a few other tricks, again, unlocking the functionality for the Alexa support. So if all you need is something that's lightweight but looks very premium and feels very sleek, this could be worth a closer look, a great sports everyday smartwatch. That's been the Amazfit GTS 2. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.